Yes, okay. Yeah.
Hello. All right.
We supposed to, it might be around 10.
Yeah, I took some up to, you all familiar with Toby and fitness shop? Toby. Yeah, the fitness shop on Main Street.
Hi, come out.
All right, how you doing? I don't know. On Main Street, that's the street corner, right next to the campus.
Let's see.
So I got to take it out. Give you my like that.
Answer questions, Dr. Lee does.
I think I got 10, I think I got 10 already.
A couple of people came in and gave me $100 donation.
Hi, Shelly.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
And then, it's a judge out of Wilson, and she came over to the headquarters, past Saturday. And gave it to me.
Am I doing okay? An old lady, I'll tell you.
We make some headway. It's some work, but, you know, I mean, I just talk a lot about what we and try to get it done. I'm feeling pretty good. I think this year we're probably gonna do real good. Last year, like I was telling you, we had some people who came in for infill and volunteer because they read it in the newspaper. They didn't, but they called first because they were committed to come.
I just knew I was going to be.
Hoping and praying this year that we succeed that and keep the smile on. Than it was last year.
Oh, that's a lot, that's exercise right there. Has a lot of.
Are you back good now?
I'm trying to get that slide.
Yeah, because I'm getting calls right now for asking me about what people, how people,
I know you did. I remember.
somebody said they didn't get theirs this month. So now, in my thing is, in my thing is, and you look at
Yes, sir.
already seeing this more than trying to you know.
I got notes because I.
Oh, give it to Jim and they asked the questions. Did you want that question to go to? I just put it in there. I put the person's name that I wanted the question to go to. Right, they gave that to them here at college. Because other than that, they just had the white postcard. Yeah, I just put the person's name that I wanted them to ask that question to. It could be general for all of them. And so then I would just put Willingham and put
Did he retire?
Hey, how
Ain't got no here. That's what
Somebody need to write down.
Well, bring it out in the car.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about putting the vehicle on the trailer. Well,
So, gentlemen, come back.
oh, yeah.
Well,
I'll show put it out for you.
Right out here.
Inside.
You gotta decide. Speaking of this, there's nothing you can do.
It actually.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna write on anything I wanna write on right now. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll get back to you. I don't want to.
Simple. See, he was my secret. You should see. What's his name?
Shelly Willingham. Violent. I'll be violent. He's saying that boss, yeah. He just
It's a fun time.
Alright, so we are gonna go ahead and get started for this evening. So good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us this evening for the Edgecombe County Community Town Hall. And so I am Dr. Jovita Lee. I am the program director for the North Carolina Black Alliance. We are a statewide, we are a statewide 501c3 organization founded almost 25 years ago. So it's definitely my honor and my privilege to be with you all tonight. So one thing before I get into kind of the meat of the conversation, I did want to flag or remind folks that we do have question postcards. And so if you have a question that you think of in the midst of the conversation, if you had a question before you even came in, we do have those postcards that should have been handed to you at the registration table. We do have more and extras. So as you think of the questions, feel free to write it down on the postcard and we will incorporate as many as we can into tonight's discussion. We also will be taking audience questions at the end in the event that you kind of sat through the whole thing, and then at the end you're like, I do actually have a burning question. We will reserve a few minutes for that as well. So we're going to try to incorporate as many of your questions as we can because it's about y'all, not about me and our organization. So again, I will be serving as your moderator for this evening. And so before we even get started, I do want to thank the full planning committee for this event, because this is not something that is spearheaded by the Black Alliance. This was spearheaded by the community, and I'm really excited about that. And so I definitely want to thank the ECAE, Edgecombe United, Community Empowerment Alliance, and several other community leaders that were integral in bringing this together and actually getting us here tonight. So we can give them a hand here in the audience. They were registration table. This together. And I also would like to thank our founding board member, Commissioner Viola Harris, for her work and allowing us to be in this space this evening. So thank you so much for the role that you have played in this as well. And then, of course, I want to thank my team, Attorney Ms. Dacia Watkins, Gary Bobbitt, John McCann, who is here to support tonight's event as well. So thank you to Lottie and everybody. I really appreciate all the work that you have done to get us here. So to begin tonight's discussion, I do want to welcome our esteemed panelists. So we have Senator Kandie Smith, Senate District 5. We have Representative Shelly Willingham, House District 23, and Ms. Superior Cole, President and CEO of the North Carolina Association of Community Development Corporations. Can we give our panelists a hand? So again, I have a few prepared questions for tonight's discussion. But really this is focused on you all. So continue to think about questions that you may have as the discussion continues, and we will continue to incorporate them in tonight's discussion. And so I'm going to start with my first prepared question, and it's going to be directed at Senator Smith. So can you describe for us here the state of our current democracy and political landscape here in North Carolina, particularly what we just saw this week with another map redraw?
I wasn't even waiting for the microphone. I was just trying to think of the best way to say it because I didn't want to start personally. It's a shame where we are right now. If you've ever heard the term power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely, that's where we are. We had all a matter of 6 days to vote on a map. We were trying to go in and vote on the budget. That's what we thought we were going to be coming back and vote on. We were like 113, 14 days. behind on the budget, and all of a sudden we saw this tweet. And then we saw this press release. The president called for us to find seats, so we're gonna go back and redraw the map. What? There's a lot of angry people. A lot of people put their feedback online, came to speak at the election committee meeting for the Senate as well as the House, sat in the gallery for the Senate session as well as the House session. Many people are angry. They voiced it. They were protesting, they're marching. But I say personally, although we're in a very tough situation, the maps are passed. What we can't do is sit down now and just say, okay, it's over. We can't give up the fight. If they feel like that now it is no longer an issue and that you're gonna forget about it, just wait to see what's next. Because it's blatant. We were told, listen, we just want that seat. It doesn't matter. We're gonna get that seat. We asked, why did you go through the black belt? We only had 3 minorities representing us in Congress. Why did you have to go through the black belt to do it? Out of all the other districts that you could have did something to, well, we just want the seat. And it's nothing racial, is what they're saying. So I'm disappointed, just like others are, but I'm gonna keep fighting. I've been on so many radio shows lately, I'm exhausted. I wanna turn my radio off when I'm driving home. But people need to know. We need to make sure we get the word out. We have to keep fighting. And you have to make sure you keep reaching out to your legislators, because when you don't, then we don't know what you're thinking, or how you're thinking, or how you think things should go. Because I truly believe that you elect us to represent you, and it's not the other way around. But what we experienced this past week was not how it goes. Because when they decided to change the maps from 11 to 2, that means now they want to determine who they want to represent, instead of you determine who you want to be your representative. So it's very chaotic, it's very frustrating, it's very exhausting. Not to mention, we don't have a budget, and people are asking us, what are we doing? Teacher raises, what are we doing about the law enforcement? What are we doing about Medicaid rebates? People are hurting right now. And then we have a federal shutdown on top of that. And people have no idea really what to do. I say continue the fight. We are in some very unprecedented times. We've not been here before, but our forefathers have. They fought, they didn't give up, which allowed us this opportunity to be in these seats to serve you. So you have to make sure you continue to fight and to hold us accountable. Thank you.
And Representative Wilson, if you have anything to add around just what you've seen this week, what you've seen this session, and just any response to that.
The only thing I have to say is that, of course, I did everything that she said. But I still have a tinge of optimism, even looking at the maps that we've drawn. So I think the last words about keep on fighting, that's something that we have to do. We can't give up. I think there is always a possibility that we can win. And I've seen the likes of that. And I'll just share this with you. I've talked to a lot of folks. I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, especially this past week talking about the maps. This was something that was kind of blown on us, but at least I was not surprised when I got word, of course, I was on the district committee, I got worried about what was going to happen. But I was not surprised that this was coming down, because that's what our president is all about. I mean, he's trying to get as much power as he can. And of course, the first congressional district in North Carolina is one of the few competitive districts in the country. And so naturally, and then by having a representative, they naturally, that was the one that they would come to try to get. But I think there's a possibility this is like not for our job. I mean, there are a lot of preliminary numbers and we have to make up there's some assumptions that make it even by drawing these maps that just because it might be predominantly Republican, that they're like those Republicans. I think a lot of the stuff nationwide that are happening, and it's causing some people to have some angst about what they're doing and what they've done over the last few years. I've talked to a number of Republicans, and they were not happy necessarily. And they indicated that, of course, we know that elected Republicans, they know that they have to do that because if not, in the Republican Party, they punish you. I mean, they actually punish you if you're a representative, if you vote against the leadership, then you're punished. I mean, W deals are here to even get the light candidate. If you're a committee, if you're like, you're taken off that committee, if you're a chair, you're taken from that committee. So they actually punish you and you kind of put over the side and nothing that you can do can change that. So they're certainly going to go on what leadership proposes. Another thing that we have to remember, the thing that I keep in mind is that, I mean, they don't have control, they are Republicans. And I know people say, well, what they did is not fair. It's not about fair, it's about power. Who has the power to do what they want to do if they can. And we've been thinking about the rules. And what happens is that if you're complaining about the rule, then all they do is change the rule to make it apply what they want. So there's not a lot that you can do there. But let me close by just saying, I really believe that if you, the citizens, continue to talk to your representatives, and not just your representatives, the people that represent you, but any senator or representative, if they're North Carolina representative, as I say that we represent the whole state, even though we're elected by a certain number of people, we all represent in the House, I represent 97,000 people, and you got, I mean, so 100,000. So you need to continue to talk to those people. I mean, call the Republicans too. Don't just call us. Call them. And they do listen. I mean, they might not respond to you, but they do listen. They hear. And I can tell you that in committee meetings and we're not on camera or you don't see us on the floor, there are conversations going on, and there are people, and they do have some feelings. And so hopefully, you might get through to one or two of them. It's possible. I mean, I don't bank on it, but at the same time, you don't just go in the top.
Thank you both for your responses. And so I want to stay on the topic of redistricting, and I want to highlight a local victory because there are some wins within this chaos that we are seeing consistently at the state and the federal level. And so this question is for Ms. Sue Perry Cole. And so locally, you and many other leaders were integral in the effort to put forward a community-supported district map, specifically regarding the school. Can you tell us more about this local effort and how you all collectively came to a victorious result, and then any lessons learned that you want to offer?
Good evening. My name is Susan Perry Cole. I have been serving as a co-convener of the Edgecombe School Demerger Community Redistricting Working Group. Recently, our group renamed itself Edgecombe United. The Redistricting Working Group is a coalition, including individuals from across Edgecombe, working together to elevate and amplify the voices of community residents. It was formed following the breakup of the Nash Rockingham Public Schools. I know many of you in this audience are very familiar with the background of the redistricting process here locally, because you were deeply engaged in the redistricting process as community leaders. But allow me to present a few facts to give a level information playing field. In June 2023, the North Carolina General Assembly passed SB 248, which set a time frame for the demerger of the Nash Rockingham School District. That meant that Rocky Mount students living in Nash County would attend Nash County schools, and Rocky Mount students living in Edgecombe County would go to Edgecombe County schools. And with the demerger, the Edgecombe County Board of Education had the obligation to withdraw its electoral districts to incorporate the portion of Rocky Mount that is within Edgecombe County boundaries, but wasn't a part of the Edgecombe County Board of Education district yet. Let me give a few facts about the annexation. The annexation portion of Rocky Mount in Edgecombe County took effect July 1st, 2024. There were nearly 10,000 people in the Rocky Mountain area that were annexed into the Edgecombe County School District. Actually, 9,820 people is over 20% of the current population of Edgecombe County. And of these 9,820 people who were annexed, Black residents make up 94% of the total population and 93% of the voting age population. Leaving nothing to chance, the redistricting work group in August 2023 wrote a letter to the Board of Education setting forth of its expectations. And it talked about the need to draw the districts in compliance with state law and federal law, including Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The 2023 letter proposed that the process be transparent and community-led, meaning that public hearings before and after maps were proposed should be convened. Other details included a request for a published timeline and that the annexed members of the Rocky Mount community be given a special opportunity to be heard. Now fast forward to 2025. On July 14, 2025, the Edgecombe County Board of Education unanimously, that was 6-0, approved map C as the new district map for electing board members, with candidate filing beginning on December 1st, 2025. This culmination of nearly 2 years' worth of work. Anybody that's done any kind of community organizing knows it's very difficult to maintain attention of community members over a 2-year period. Yet the residents of Edgecombe County responded, and they responded well. The redistricting work group hailed the adoption of map C, the community's preferred map, as a monumental win for the residents of Edgecombe County because it protects communities of interest and provides equitable representation for minority voters across 7 districts. You should know that the redistricting work group identified communities of interest to the Edgecombe County Board, and they were incorporated in map C. What do we mean by a community of interest? It refers to a neighborhood, community, or group of people that have common policy concerns and who would benefit from being maintained in a single district. And communities of interest are identified by the local community members. You should also know in May 2025, the Board of Education voted to narrow map options to 2 choices. I'll give you a word on the other map choice in a second. The board voted to post maps at various sites around Edgecombe County and to hold a series of 4 public hearings for community members to provide input to the board concerning maps. And I'm so proud to sit here tonight and tell you that 200 residents from across Edgecombe County attended these public hearings. and over 50 community members spoke and presented testimony at the series of 4 hearings. And they spoke in their authentic voices, sharing their insight into their personal connections, vision, and passion for the Edgecombe County Public Schools. All the speakers, virtually all the speakers made that option C the best choice for respecting communities of interest in Edgecombe County. The board considered a separate map, D2, which would have packed Black voters into 2 districts with higher than 80% voting age population. However, because you turned out, you, the community residents, and put for presence and voice supporting map C, moved the board to vote community's choice. A couple of lessons learned. A campaign for change can benefit from a community champion. All of us that work to get map C adopted know that Angela Bryant was our community champion. A champion is an influential figure who can rally support for programs and ideas. Angela Bryant was the working group's champion who worked tirelessly to build relationships and worked effectively with various partners. She was the glue that held the working group together. I think we should give her a round of applause. Another lesson learned, we had a very deep and skilled bench. The vote for map C represented a collaborative effort comprised of the redistricting working group, Edgecombe County residents, and the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. The Southern Coalition for Social Justice didn't try to control us. They supported us. They stayed in the background and let the voices of Edgecombe County residents be heard. When it was pertinent to do so, they would author letters. They attended virtually all of our meetings in between the public hearing sessions, and I think that was a part of the secret sauce that led to our victory. The final lesson learned, with persistence and unity, residents of marginalized communities can build an informed base of community members with the power and influence to achieve policy and system change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Superior Cole. I think one of the main things coming from what you offered us is you highlighting the fact that this is a 2-year effort. This is not a 2-week effort. This is not a 2-day effort. And so that's one of the things that we're really trying to instill, not only in communities, but especially with our youth, because that's one of our efforts as Black Alliance is really trying to get our youth and young adults involved and have the understanding of like a lot of the change that we wish to see is going to take time, and we may not be the recipients of the immediate change, but how do we want to leave things for the next generation and for the next step? So thank you for highlighting the fact that consistent persistence is one of the key factors in being able to be successful. Thank you for that. I do want to toss this next question to Representative Willingham because the redistricting effort was centered around the school board, and so I kind of want to stay in the realm of education. So as you know here in Edgecombe County and in many counties across North Carolina and just across the nation, the public school is the foundation when it comes to being one of our primary employers, but also for our babies, for our students. We know that we rely on public education and public schools for them to be educated. So thinking about all of the different legislation that came to pass this session and previous sessions, a lot of the conversation and a lot of what actually ended up passing was centered around private schools. So it is a deliberate attempt to take funding and resourcing from our public schools and funnel it into private schools across the state. And so Representative Willingham, thinking about legislation that, for example, supported or advocated or allowed for private school teachers, parents, volunteers to be armed on private campuses, also giving the private school vouchers, and think about your perspective on this concerted effort to resource private schools. In your view, what does your community, what does the state gain from this type of legislation? And what was some of your motivation for being in support of some of this legislation as well?
Thank you for the question. Let me first of all just tell you my approach to education and my thought about education. My thing is I support education, whether the education is private school, charter school, public school. And anything that I do and all the things that I've done, I'm never going to put one school against another, private against public or public against charter or whatever. So when I look at education, I look at it as a whole, one unit, and I don't separate it. Now, the argument has been that when we give money to private schools or charter schools, some to private charter schools in particular, then that money is taken from public school. That might be true. I don't know. I can't say that. I know that the idea is that you want to fund education, period. And we know that we don't fund public education the way we should be. But the idea is that when you are in control, in this case, the Republican Party, they have an idea about what they're going to fund. And there's nothing that we can do as Democrats, as those of us in the super minority. We can't stop it. So the best thing that we can do, as I see it, is that we need to take advantage of wherever the funding is. And what I advise my constituents, you and other citizens, to take advantage of those private schools and those vouchers that are there. Because it's going to be funded. We can't stop that. You might not like it, but it's there. And if you can use it, then use it. Education for me is that I'm going to support it any way I can, be it private, charter, or public. I'm not going to change that.
Thank you for that. And so we talked about redistricting, we talked about education, but this legislative session has brought us all kinds of legislation. And so this question is going to be for Senator Smith. So again, this session has presented today some of the most egregious legislation that we've seen in quite a long time, or ever. And so Senator Smith, how have state leaders been defending against these consistent attacks that we've been seeing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, our environment, and so many more topics?
You can exercise knowledge. Okay, so when we start talking about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, we've had 3 bills that came out. There was education, higher education, and then about government. It passed both the House and the Senate, and then the governor vetoed. In the Senate, we're in the super minority, so we could not hold it, and it went over to the House. It has not been called in the House today. One of the things that we did as a legislative black caucus is we put out a public statement, a press release, that we stand united, that we are not going to override those 3 vetoes on DEI. And I guess because of that, they're not calling. Now, that doesn't mean they won't call. If people are absent, there are certain things, and they find the numbers in their favor, they may try. But we agreed as a caucus that we are not going to override those vetoes. One of the things that I like to look at is when we think about DEI, a lot of times they're talking about the infrastructure and how minorities are taking advantage or getting advantages because of having laws that help us to do things that maybe other races don't have the opportunity. And we've been having some very vigorous debate on the Senate side about that. One of the things I had to share with my pupils is when we start looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I like to name it instead of just saying DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What we're looking at is if we get an opportunity to be admitted into a college, it's not because we didn't have the grades. It's not because we didn't have the qualifications. It's because in the past, if they saw a name and it was Shaniqua or Kilolo, they was gonna put that to the side, just because. And I think part of that is, you can throw that one, finish with that, you keep it. But part of that is because implicit bias, everybody has it. You're born and you're reared in your environment. And when you're in that environment, you do things according to what your culture is, right? And sometimes we don't even realize when we are doing things that might be excluding others. So what diversity, equity, and inclusion did was just said, we need you to make sure that you're looking at everybody, giving everybody an opportunity. If they qualify, then they can get in if the grades and everything matter. But if they didn't qualify, they couldn't get in. Well, of course, we had differences on that. I only say one thing. If it was truly about diversity, equity, and inclusion, why did you get rid of legacy? Because that just means just because your daddy was there, you can go. You don't even have to have grades. So if you're saying now it's about mediocrity, it's a lot of people who are legacy should never even think about going to school because they didn't have the qualifications to get there. But the people I know who are going to Harvard, going to Yale, going to Howard, they have the qualifications to go there. And so when we start looking at it, we don't want to say, well, now y'all can't go to school. No, we want you to still look at these applications. Why don't you do a little box that says anything about racism? How about that? If we really want to make it fair and equitable. Y'all know it's a battle. As it was stated before, they are in control. They have the power. That's why elections matter.
Okay.
That's why elections matter. Regardless, when we look at these districts and we look at if it's leaning Republican or leaning Democrat, I can tell you, if you look at what we truly have, the Democrats truly outnumber the Republicans. The major issue is, what is it? We don't vote. There you go. We spend so much time trying to find excuses why we don't vote. It's ridiculous. When we look at the numbers and see how many people who are registered still did not go and vote, it is ridiculous. It is not on us. It's on y'all. And I know that we're preaching to the choir when we're talking to you all, because if you're in this room, I better not get to pull it up, pull your name up, see you ain't vote. But you know somebody. We all know someone. We need to make sure we're educating people. And it's probably not going to work when we say our forefathers bled and died. They can't connect with that. That history has been erased so much that they don't see that. They're thinking about the here and now. So you have to make it relevant for them. So when I talk to people, they tell me what, it don't matter if I vote. I said, so you work? They say, yeah. So you pay taxes? They say, yeah. So you giving us your money and you don't care what we do with it. And they're going to say, what you mean? I said, when you pay taxes, it comes to us as a state. When y'all look at this budget and how we deal with the budget and this money, that's y'all money. Say our money. Then they look at me and one said, nobody ever explained it to me that way. I didn't know. You gotta make it relevant so they can understand. I'd rather you have decisions made for you instead of just about you. So you have to be at the table. And if you're not there, bring a folding chair. Because it is important that your voice is heard and that you have people who are representing you. So we have some legislation, even with environment and energy. We have some legislation that comes up. And sometimes we look at it and say, well, you know, it's bringing jobs, it's bringing this, it's bringing that. Well, you have to look at all sides. And you know, you have a coin, you flip it, it has at least two sides. If I have something that's gonna price you out of even being able to live in your home and then paying your utilities all together, and then you can't get your medication and everything else, I have problems with that. Because there's a lot of money that's made in energy. And that money can be used for programs to be able to help so people can live. But sometimes when we get greedy, that's what I'm gonna call it. When we get greedy, we can't see the forest for the trees because it's about the money. And my major concern is looking out for you. Because I know when the money runs out and you still got money left, that's a hard thing. And we all have to be in it together. So I like to have, let's come to the table and look at, well, what can you do as a company? What can you do as an organization that's gonna help? And if they're not willing, and it's all about the greed, I don't know. And so it's gonna be a lot of things that will continue to come, but there has been a lot to come. You all know the crime bill. I don't even wanna, I was gonna vote for it. I was gonna be okay with it, as many of us in the Senate, on the Democratic side, we were gonna be okay with it. Until we had that last amendment that brought up that we're gonna bring the death penalty back, and then we could use the firing squad. We can use the gas chamber possibly. We can use lethal injection. We could use, hanging possibly. I couldn't do it. Because as I spoke on the floor, the majority of people, when it comes to that death penalty, look like me. And when you have people who have been exonerated, meaning they didn't even commit the crime and they were on death row, that lets you know it's a problem. We have 122 people right now that's on death row. We don't even have enough of our DAs and have enough staff clerks to help them to even go through these cases when people appeal. So if we only give you 2 years, that's not a good thing. If it was a longer time that you have to be able to appeal to see if you're truly innocent, then that's a different thing. And I know we've had many people who used to be on the death row for a long time. Now, all of that is changing. And when we look at the changes, if we don't come to the table and look at everybody's voice on what this should look like, that's a problem. But when we do it because we want to make sure that we look like we're tough on crime, and we're doing this because our president is wanting us to be tough on crime. Well, he's a convicted felon. I ain't gonna even say 34 is just what they say, maybe way more than that. But we just have to truly understand that that's why it's important that your voices need to continue to be out loud, speaking, talking, calling, coming up, making sure that you're not just calling us, that you're calling them. I love to see you though. Take the picture, cheese, all that. I want to do that. But I need you to go to their offices. I need you to call their offices. I need you to knock on their doors, send emails, let them know how you feel. But when it's election time, y'all better get out to vote. All the boots on the ground we're doing. We better make sure that we're putting boots on the ground with them polls. And we need to be flooding those polls with all of our neighbors, our friends, our families. They need to go and vote. Because if they don't vote, they don't have a voice. And he gonna say something. You have to walk over here.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm a realist, and I think you have to understand the process. The process that the way things operate in wrong. The DEI bills, of course, they were overridden on the Senate side. Because on the Senate side, they can do what they want to. They can, the leader is told the Senate members, I don't need you. And they don't, because everything they want to. A little different on the other side. We got those bills and they're on our agenda every time we meet. It's on there because they want to wait to a time when they take the road. And if one of us are absent, one, they don't know that bill and they can do it override. But we have everybody, well, outside, all the Democrats we have enough to start with to sustain the governor's veto on those bills. That's why they haven't passed yet. And we're not gonna have any more votes in this session. At least in the House, I'm going to Senate, but we're not. And of course, a bill has to be passed by both the House and the Senate. So that means that no more legislation is going to pass this year, because we're not going to vote on anything else. That's it.
We vote on y'all.
Yeah, well, she said, we
I got hope.
we passed another mini budget, and we passed, and for that to be effective, it needs to be voted on by the Senate. But I don't think, and she can correct me, but I don't think they're going to vote on that either. So, in essence, nothing's going to happen for the rest of the year. So what is done is done. So we in the House, those Democrats, we have held that in the sense of preventing DEI bills from being passed at this point. We don't have all plans because we don't know when somebody's going to be absent. Because when that happens, and they have their numbers, they're going to pass those bills. But right now, this is the only like that we have, so this is what we're doing.
Thank you. So we have reached the time where I'm going to start to incorporate some audience questions for the panelists, and I'm going to start with Mr. Perry Cole, and then I'll just keep tossing them in there. So Mr. Perry Cole, any advice for folks that are organizing long-term community gatherings? Yes.
Hang in there. That's what I would say. We're going through a very brutal period right now where there's a lot of backlash. And one of the things that I'm thinking is change at the local level may be more viable at this point than change at the state level. We shouldn't give up at the state level. But this local redistricting that may give us some insight that we can have an impact at the local level as well. But change isn't easy, it doesn't happen overnight, and we gotta be in it with endurance. And I guess at 76, the other thing I would say is take care of ourselves in the process. Because this is gonna be a long battle, it's not gonna be one overnight, or tomorrow or next week, and we gotta hang in there. So stay in the struggle, stay engaged. On the way over here, in the car, we were talking about Representative Eva Clayton, 91. She came out and talked about the importance of what was going on with this redistricting in the first congressional district. And if Eva Clayton can hang in there to 91, I think all of us have a challenge in front of us. So I say hang in there.
Thank you. This next question is for Senator Smith. Why is it important to sustain Governor Stein's veto as the leader of the Black Legislative Caucus, specifically?
Well, from our perspective, it's important to sustain the governor's veto because we want the community to know that we're standing together. If you have a community that begins to think that we can never hold any vetoes, we can't do anything, then you're going to have a lot of people with voter apathy. They don't want to vote. Like, why do you vote we are? You have the ability to sustain vetoes and you won't even do it. And then at the same time, you begin to give more power to the Republicans because in their mind, they feel like they can do more. They've taken away the governor's powers as much as they can, and they're giving them over to the auditor. But they'll do more and more if they can get more and more and make it where we can't do anything. And so I think it shows that we're unified and we're trying to fight together. There are some things, I say we're not a monolith, so everybody won't vote the exact same way on every single thing. But when we come to looking at democratic values, when we come to look at how we're actually supposed to be supporting our people and those things that we find important, then we need to make sure that we unify on that. And so that's the main reason why I found myself sustaining vetoes. If there was one that was different, then I would have conversations. And then I would let you know why I decided to not do it if that's the case. I just know that when you put me in a position, you expect me to make sure that as far as being a Democrat, when you vote for me being a Democrat, if these bills are proved to be detrimental to us, that you want us to make sure that we're stopping as much as we can bad legislation. I think it was 42 pieces that we stopped in the past. 42 pieces. So we might not be in the position to be able to pass legislation that we want, but if we can stop bad legislation, and the other part of it is if they know that we're gonna sustain the veto, they might be more likely to work with us and to take some of our amendments, just so that we will vote with them to be able to pass the legislation. So if I know that you're gonna work with me, it's gonna be better. I will never say that everything that we do as Democrats, if we were in control, would be all good. No. Just like I won't say everything as Republicans will be all good as they're in control. I think it takes a collaborative effort. And we need input on both sides, because none of us are perfect. But when we're not willing to, that's the issue. So when we're looking at sustaining the vetoes, it allows us to actually collaborate. If you think we're gonna override it, if you think that we're not gonna be on the side, or we're gonna be on the side of the governor, then you're more likely to say, listen, talk to him. You might not put our name on it, but you might say, talk to him. Tell me what you think might be able to be added to make this bill better. That's what we want right now. That's the role that we're in. And we have to use that to the best of our ability. And if they're willing to make it better, that's a good thing for us as citizens, because we have to live with these laws. But if we give them everything, they don't have to work with us for nothing. It's a steamroll. And no one likes a steamroll. Thank you. That's been my perspective.
And again, a related question for Representative Willingham says, why did you vote to override the governor's vetoes? And what was the benefit of that?
Why did I vote to override the governor's veto? On that particular bill, let me explain how I made my decision in voting. When there's a bill that's presented, you have lobbyists that come in and lobby you. Those who support the bill, advocating for it, I know that they're going to tell me everything that's good about that bill, everything. Those who don't support the bill, the lobbyists come in and they talk to me. They're going to tell me everything that's wrong with the bill. So I have those two sides. I take those two sides, and also there are a number of things that, by being a legislator and being part of the process and getting that bill there, there are things that I know that they don't know, things that they don't know. So those things that I will consider. In addition to that, not only do I consider those three things, but I also consider the experience that I have in dealing with this particular issue, with this particular problem. And then I look at how that affects the situation as it is in this time. And then I make a decision. I'm either going to go for it or against it. If I vote, whatever my vote is, it's not depending on what the government thinks or what the rest of the caucus think or what anybody else in the state thinks. There's nobody in the law that can vote for me. Only you can vote for me. So I take all those things and put it in mind, and then I make a decision. I decide, and that's it. Now, I know that every vote that I take, and this term, we voted over 600 or 700 votes. And so I know that every vote that I take, I'm going to make somebody happy, and it will make somebody unhappy. But that's not a concern of mine. I'm not worried about who I make happy, who I don't make happy. I'm worried about trying to make the best decision with the information that I have. And I make that decision, and I stick to it. I know the governor, would like that no matter what he does for us, those in the Democratic Party, to follow him. And, that's not gonna happen. Because there are times when the government makes decisions, he makes political decisions based on some of the things that I said, but also other things that we don't know that he knows. And so I'm not looking to see how somebody else votes, because that's not why I'm there. I'm there to make a decision based on the information that I have, the knowledge that I have, and I make that decision. And I've been out here for 50 years doing this. So I feel comfortable when I do that. Of course, again, if somebody is, if they look at my voting rights, and if they think of what decision that I made for one vote, that I take, that they don't like, they think that I shouldn't be there, and I don't have to vote and give you the advice that is said that our former president, Barack Obama, told somebody when he did something that they didn't like, and they said, you know, you haven't done enough for black people, and you're not black enough, and a lot of things like that. And he said to them, he said, my advice to you is to go and file the run for office. He said, and then win the election, and then try to do things that you said that I should do. That's my advice to you.
You're not answering the question. This is why.
Why, I just told you why. Why? Because of the information that I have.
And the benefits.
Yes, the reasons that I voted for. The reason that I voted the way I did is based on the information that I have. And I use that information to make my decision. So I can't convince you, even if I try to tell you all the reasons why I did it, it's not going to change your mind. I'm not going to try to change your mind, because, I mean, you think what you think, and that's it. I've made that decision, and that decision is there. I can't tell you, again, I don't try to convince anybody to think the way I think. I'm just saying this is the result. And of course, the results are something that you either accept or you not accept. And whatever that is, that's what it is. Now, again, like I said, I can't convince you no matter what I tell you, you know, one way or the other. And that's not an issue. It's not going to change anything. But I can tell you that I have delivered for this district. If we go back and look at what's coming to this district, we've got more this district than we've ever got. All the folks that's been in, that's represented, Edgecombe, and Martin County, and Berkeley. I can show you what is coming as we talk about. So again, as I say, there are a lot of other issues, things that I have to consider than just whether this is something that people back home is going to like or this way for me to be effective. And I think I've been effective, and only thing I can say to you is that if you really think I've been ineffective, then you know, we're elected every 2 years, and you know, you can remove it. You'll find that that's one way to clear that up.
And the next question can either come from Senator Willingham or Senator Smith. With the bills pending veto override in the legislature, how long is 2026 do these bills stay alive? What can happen next? And can they put the language from those bills in other bills?
So I had to make sure that I was clear. I think the question asked if something is vetoed, how long does that last? So it lasts throughout the biennium. So if we are elected for 2 years and something's vetoed and then it comes up to see if we're gonna sustain it or override it, it can be put on the calendar until the end. And that's long session and short session, correct?
But one of the things that, for instance, the DEI bills right now, they're there. We're not gonna vote on those, until, well, anytime this year. Now, if we come back to a short session, now those bills can be reintroduced. They can be reintroduced, but as far as going into effect, they'll be dead once the session, once we sign it out, we close session. Then that means that it's dead, but it can be picked back up in the next session.
And yes, language can be taken from one bill, put in another. I experienced that one time. I had a bill, and it was about ECU, and this is when I was in the House. I went to a committee meeting, and I was excited. My bill was being heard. They started talking. I said, whoa, that ain't my bill? What are they talking about? They said, oh, we gutting your bill. So they had my bill because it was a vehicle they could use. They gutted that bill, and they put what they wanted in there. And then later on, they changed the name. It was shocking to me, but that was my first time it ever happened to me. And I had the speaker at that time, which is Tim Moore. He explained to me what they did. He said, yeah, they just took your bill as a vehicle. We put what we wanted in there. We will eventually change the name. So can they take language from other bills and put it in there? They absolutely can. And sometimes that's what's done with the budget. They take language and different things that's been put in individual bills that's been maybe sent to rules or sent to committees and didn't get a chance to come from the House to the Senate or the Senate to the House. And sometimes those things are put into a budget, especially if it has finances behind it. So it's a lot of things that can happen. It's not just cut and dry as it may seem to some people. It's a lot. And so sometimes it goes into a rig reform bill. Depends on what type it is. Sometimes it goes into the budget, like I said, but it can, some of the language can be used into other bills.
Well, as I said before, we have to understand the process. We have a deadline when bills have to be filed. So if that deadline has passed, then it's possible for we file what we call blank bills. So it's nothing in the bill, but it's filed. And that bill is there just in case you miss the deadline, you can go in and put language in, whatever it is that you want. That's one way. The other thing too is that there are bills that go into committees, and every bill goes through a committee. That committee chair has the authority to either run that bill or not run it. A lot of the good bills die in committee. You can file as many bills as you want from it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be here, they're there. What they can do is take the bill, like say, a bill to renovate building at EC. Well, when you look at it, that's what the title is, but if you look into the bill, it says this bill will entitle Edgecombe Community College to let students come for $100. It's completely different. You can do that. And then we also have bills that we call the zombie bills. They're dead. They were killed in the committee. But they get to rules. So when the committee starts serving in this committee, every bill that comes to the House has to come through this committee, no matter where it goes. We're the last one to see that bill. And they're what we call zombie bills. We can bring a bill back to life. We can revise that bill if we want to, or let it go. So one of the big things about being there is understanding the process, how it works, and also understanding that committee chairs are the ones who decide whether bills are here or not. So if you don't have some kind of relationship with the committee chair, then no matter who you are, your bill, it's not gonna happen. Your bill's gonna be dead on arrival when it gets there, period.
And one of the things also to consider, if they want to change a rule, all they have to do is put it up and we vote on it. If they got the power to change it, they can change it. So like he stated, the bills come, they go through rules before they go to the floor. That didn't happen with redistricting though. It went to election committee and straight to the floor. But they can change the rules anytime they want to when they have a majority. That's why you need to what?
And one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that when you hear that it's a complex bill, when that comes before the floor, you can only go up or down. You can't add anything, you can't take anything away from it. There is no necessary debate. It is a for or against. The rest of the bills, if it's just a regular bill, you can have amendments or offer amendments and stuff on the floor, you can change it or kill it or whatever. But if it's a complex bill, you can only go for it or against it. That's done. This redistricting bill we just had, of course, it came to us as a common bill. What that means that both the House and the Senate already agreed what it's going to be. And so that was agreed upon. So when it comes to vote, you have to go for it or against it. Period. So it's a lot of moving parts.
And so I want to see before I continue on the written questions, because I do want to be respectful of folks' time. Are there any questions in the audience that have not been written on postcards that folks would like to ask? Sorry, give us first. One mic. Thanks for hands. Thank you, Ms. Dawson.
Roy Gray, I'm here to talk DMV. This whole thing about the gold star on the life, what is the meaning, what is the purpose of that, what does that do, what it don't do? And then also, this year, the governor voted to allow 2 times online, but when my wife went online, she was denied.
You want me to walk like you,
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Well, let me answer the gold star. That's the federal, that's real ID. That's the one that, if you don't have that, you have to use your passport when you go into the airport to do different things. So I just went on and got the real ID, so I don't have to use my passport, except when I go lay out on the beach. Now, we did pass something that says that you can renew 2 times. I don't know when your wife tried. Let me tell you what happens a lot. Sometimes it goes through the House, but it hasn't gone through the Senate. And everybody hears about it on the news. That's because it's in process. But if we hadn't voted on it, then it's not effective yet. Or if it comes to the Senate and it hadn't gone through the House, I've had people say, we got that in law. And I said, which one? And they tell me, I said, no, we don't. We hadn't voted on that. They said, well, they said it on the news. That's where you got to pay attention. It has, in order to become a law, the bill has to go through the House and the Senate. That's why the budget, then it goes to the governor. And the governor can let it sit on his desk for 10 days and it becomes law, or he can sign it immediately and it becomes law, or he can veto it. And then that means it comes back. It has to go through the House and the Senate. And if one of the chambers sustains the veto, then the bill dies.
But that one, the governor had signed it.
Yes.
That Tuesday.
That Tuesday?
Yeah.
Well, if he signed it Tuesday, you gotta give a little time.
I know it, I'm saying
Oh.
that, but after we waited till.
Yeah, don't work Wednesday.
I know that. I know that.
Your wife, I said.
Right, I know that, but we waited till next week.
Yeah, tell her
After that Tuesday.
she gotta wait a little bit longer. Tell her to try to get that.
Okay.
But if not, call us. Cause we know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
Right.
One of the things that, and this is one of the things that I enjoy about serving, is that just like that yesterday, if you call every legislator, we have somebody assigned to us in every department, and they have to report to us directly. So if you had called me, for instance, about that situation, then I would have got in touch with somebody, that person from DMV, and they would have made sure. And I tell them, you need to get back to me today, I need to know. And they would let me know that we got it fixed. It was some administrative kind of thing, but we contacted the other person and they immediately do what they need to do. So this is one thing, not just DMV, but anything that you're doing with statewide, we can put you in touch. We can have you talk to somebody. And I know that's one of the biggest complaints, people say, well, I call and nobody answers, or I get a recording, and that's true, you will. But we can directly, talk to that department head or that secretary or whoever, and they do respond to us. That's one thing that happens. No matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, they respond to us.
So why don't all DMV officers have the same rule?
Well, they do have the same rules. But what I'm saying, they might not follow it, but they do have
They
the
might
same.
not follow it.
But they do have the same level. But again, if you have an issue, call me, okay, and we should be able to take care of it.
No, the one rule I was talking about, one thing that they did was the DMV manager of that office said all people 65 and above went to the head of the line. They was not doing that in all offices.
Well, that's a new one on here. Look, that's a good one. I'll check and see.
I went to that same one every time.
Okay.
So just to let you know, when you go to the agencies in different places, sometimes they have their own procedures of how they do things. So that part is not what that's too much in the weeds for us. But when it comes to what's law, sometimes it does take time. Whenever it does pass and the governor signs it, I can tell you it doesn't happen immediately. It takes a little bit administratively for things to happen. But if you do reach out to us, constituent services is one of the best reasons why you should be able to contact your legislator. Because that's our job, is to reach out. And I had someone from Edgecombe to reach out to me. And they let me know they had some issues. And I said, cool. And reached out, they called them back, and they got it taken care of. So tell your wife, if she
No,
do
we
know.
done it. We done it.
There you go, okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Good evening. I got a question about DMV. And this is about why did they cut so many people out of DMV when everybody's ready to go get their license? They have to wait 2 and 3 days, sometimes almost 2 and 3 months before they can get their license. What can you do about that?
Well, I can tell you, we're in the process of taking care of that now, and I also serve on oversight committee. We had DMV there, and we grilled them and came up with some suggestions. Not only suggestions, but things that they have to do. But we've been already hiring more people, we extended the hours, and one of the many budgets, we also put in for some more folks to be working at DMV. And that's an issue, not just here, this is all over. So you will see improvements as far as timing, wait time, and also allowing you to do more things online that you couldn't do before. We have a new director, DMV director, and he's a former legislator, I know him. And so things are looking better, I can tell you that. And we are very experienced in the issue.
It's still now. Okay. I'm gonna jump back to the post motion. We have, I'm gonna combine sets of the questions, and then I'll have one more postcard, just to be respectful of time again. Because these two are pretty identical. And so this question is for Representative Willingham. how important is it for you to vote for what helps the citizens? Do you feel it's more important to support the needs of the people or Republican seats? And then the other question, which was very similar, was at what point do you make decisions based on your constituents' perspective? So all in the same.
I'm going to say that all the decisions I made has a lot to do with my constituents. They might not seem that way, but as I said before, I mean, I look at what not just for a particular group of my constituents, but as a whole, what the effect will be when I take that vote. The thing that you have to understand is that when we come into the General Assembly, and you see us on TV or whatever you're watching online, the decision, every vote, everything that's on that agenda, I know what the result will be before we can start. All that has been decided. That's decided in committee. We know what the vote is. That, what you say is for sure. Just tell you that is for sure. We've already decided in committee what those are going to be. Now, don't think that when the speaker says, open the vote at 14 seconds, that we make a decision in 14 seconds. We've already decided, we know what we're going to do before we get there. So that process that I mentioned when I go through, I mean, it's with everything. Because I read minds. I don't just, look at it and vote. I read because I know what's in it. And I know what I think the effect is. I have some idea. I research those things. And I think most of us do that. But a lot of folks, a lot of the elected officials sadly don't read this. They just vote, whatever. But I don't do that. And I'm a candidate in the position that she's in. She can't afford to do it either. We have to look at those things. As I said, we voted on over 600 bills already this time. And you go look at those things. And this is on, you can't hide from your vote. Once you hit that button, boom, it's on there and it's on your dashboard. You can go on the legislative website and see how I vote on everything. Everything. It goes right out there. So, if you have a question about anything, any bill, whatever, go look. And you'll find actually probably over 90% of the bills that we vote on are bipartisan. It's only a few that are not bipartisan. So, I mean, if it's a bill that you're really interested in, I mean, you get that bill and read it. Okay. Read past the title and read past the first paragraph. Because you'll find that some of the bills you'll look at, even though it has a title says one thing, in the first paragraph or two says something, there's something there that might not have nothing to do with anything you thought. That's why we have to read it. Because that's the way, I mean, that's the process. That's the way things happen. That's the way things happen. And I've been there long enough to know that, hey, I can't take for granted that that bill is telling me the right thing, that title is telling me the right thing. That's what it is. And a lot of people get caught up with that. They say, well, I voted for it, yeah, but you didn't know you voted for something else. You thought you would. So look at those things.
And I'm gonna say with one of the DEI bills, it was one of the representatives who is a Republican, but he's Black. I invited him to join us with the Legislative Black Caucus, and he said he was gonna join us until he heard us talking about the DEI bill. And he said, nobody came and spoke with me about it. And I just kindly whispered to him, anytime you have a bill that you can impeach me as a legislator, I'm not going. And he said, what? Impeach? I said, that's your bill. You didn't know it was in there? That's how I knew he didn't read it. So he got on the bill with somebody else and he didn't read it. So sometimes the bill can be a little intimidating. Y'all know they got that new AI out there right now. So you know you can take it and you can put the whole thing into AI and ask certain questions and it might be able to break it down for you to help you That's when you might find out with the crime bill, that you can get volunteers to be able to come be a part of that shooting range to kill people, part of the death sentence. See, people don't know things like that. You hear the top part, and the news glosses over the top part. A lot of people who interview us from the news have no idea what those bills say. That's why they call us, because they're asking, what does it say about this and what does it say about that? Because they read the topic. They read the first paragraph, a little sub part about it, and that's about all they know. And so they call us to look at it. So that's why it's important that we look at it, and then we can go in with our focuses and we talk about it, because there's some things sometimes that's deeply embedded that you may not know until later on.
I would say too, in the elections process, as a group, the caucus on the Democratic side, at least on the House side, every bill we caucus before the session, and we go through every bill. We go through every bill. That's what we have to do. So we're prepared when we go in. Again, as I said before, when we go into session, we've already decided what we're going to do. So we know what the results are going to be. I mean, that's on everybody. You can bank on that.
To ask two more questions, and then we are going to have quick announcements and close for this evening. The next question is for Representative Willingham. The last would be just kind of a general perspective from anybody. So this next question is, what was the benefit from you not supporting Representative Rodney Pierce's letter of protest for SB 249, which is the congressional map regional bill?
What to do? Protest? Yes.
No, the letter. The
letter of protest? As a general matter for me, I don't sign any, I've learned over the years, I've been here 10, 12 years. One thing I learned, I don't sign any protest bills. So this was not, as I told Dr. Pierce, it's not against him or anything else, but any protest bills, I don't sign. That's general judgment, personally. You can get it. What I can tell you is, when I first got there, I signed a couple of protest bills. And I found out later that those were not, I mean, I was in a lot of trouble. I got in a lot of trouble because of that. Because the protest bills, just like sometimes the bills that we have, that the title says one thing, and the body is something else. Well, I didn't really get careful enough, and I signed them, and I was in a lot of things. I don't want to go through that, but it got me into a lot of trouble. So since that time, I don't sign any protest bills.
And the last question is, from an independent, we have a two-party system. We see what the Republicans are doing, and we also, we see what the Republicans are doing. What are the Democrats doing now to persuade more independents to the Democratic side and not be, and they're asking to go beyond, stating that you all are the minority party?
What was the very last thing she said?
And beyond just saying you're the minority party, what are you doing to recruit more support for the Democratic Party?
Okay. So what I'm doing is first educating people. Second thing I'm doing is making sure I help people understand the need to fight. Now, if you don't fundamentally see the differences between the Republicans and the Democrats, then there's an issue. So one of the things that I do is when I do stand up and I decide to voice my concerns on the floor, I am showing you that if the Democrats were in power and we were in position, these are the things that we would be doing. There were over 1,700 bills filed total. 700 of those went straight to the graveyard, and they were Democratic bills. They wouldn't even see them. They wouldn't even look at them. So they went to rooms to die, and then they let their bills come forward. So we've learned that if you have an idea, then you might want to go with them and say, hey, have you thought about this? I see you running that. Have you thought about that? Because I think that might be good. And when they submit it as their idea, you're more likely to get some things done and to get some things passed. So it's important that we continue to educate, that we learn what's happening, and that we work and we fight and we see what the differences are. Now, if we say the same thing they saying, you might as well just keep them in position. But if you see that there is a difference, then that's when you want to support that difference. But we can't not pay attention, because if you don't pay attention, how you gonna know?
Right.
If you're not reading, if you're not looking, if you're not watching, if you're not even calling us and asking questions, you can even call our offices, because we have legislative assistants, and their job is also to interact with you as the public. And if there's something you're not clear on, even if it's a certain bill, you say, I got a concern about this one bill, can you help explain that? I make sure that I tell my legislative assistant, your job is to make sure that you know that bill just like I have to know. Because if people call my office, then I need you to give them answers. And even if you need to call them back, tell them you'll call them back, but I need you to help them through that process, because that's what our job is. And so she understands that. So it's important for you guys to make sure you get involved so you can see the differences. Now, I still am not going to say all bills that the Republicans give are bad. They're not. Just because somebody's Republican, they're not. And I'm not going to say all bills that we offer are good just because we're Democrats. But I can say when there's collaboration and people are looking at what could be proven to make things better, and we're looking out for the people as a whole, those are the kinds of bills that we want to fight for, that I want to fight for. Because it is true. I would say, 85 to 90% of the bills, we all vote. If you look up on that board, you'll see everybody vote the same. It's a small percentage where there's a bigger divide. And I think that's where people begin to look at, are you Democrat or are you Republican? What are you looking at? What are your reasoning for this? Why would you vote for this? Why would you not vote for this? One of the things for me was the Farm Act. A lot of my peers voted against the Farm Act. I voted for the Farm Act. I talked to a lot of farmers. They reached out to me. I asked questions. Explain this part to me. What about this? What about that? How does this work? What do you see with this? What do you see with that? And with my information that I gathered, of course, we're going to lobbyists for and against. And we have our caucuses where we talk about it. Then where I feel was with the farmers with Eastern North Carolina, I needed to vote for that farm bill. That's what they wanted me to do. I've never been a farmer until this year. So I got a garden in my house. So I've been doing some things, eating some okra. But I don't have the experience that they had. And I had to lean on the farmers for the experts for that. And when they shared the information with me, then I voted for the farm bill so that it could help them to be able to produce food for us. So there are differences, and there are times that I don't vote 100% for the party. Typically when there's not a veto that I've overridden, because I felt the same way as the Democratic Party, as the governor. Now, I ain't gonna say he's my best friend, because I'd be lying to you. But I look at everybody independently and say, you put your pants on like I do. So my job is to make sure that I'm looking at these things and how they affect the people. So if the governor doing what he's supposed to do, I tell him to. That's just how I am. Thank you.
I can get over everything she said there too. But let me say, the thing that, I try to do as far as, encouraging folks to, look at the two parties and don't even have to talk about the two parties, look at what's happening, what they're doing. I mentor, students, and I talk to them. In fact, I've mentored over 15 years in the school system, talking to kids, and I think this is where we need to start, make sure they understand truth, what's happening, and why it's important for them to vote or be involved in the political process. So it's a matter of making sure, that people understand where you are, but I try my best to look at people as people and not necessarily put them in a particular basket. Now, I've been fortunate. I have a good relationship. I've been able to work across the line. I work on the both side and the Democratic side. I talk to folks and just so I get well. I talk to them. They tell me things and I get information and nobody's good. Because I treat them, I respect them, and they respect me. And I've been able to deliver to our district because of that. I have a good relationship only with the speaker, and nothing happens unless the speaker says, now, as I was telling Kandie, we were talking before we started, up there in the house, the speaker's job is like going to the courtroom. The judge is going to, no matter who you are, when you go in that courtroom, you're going to do what the judge says, period. The same way up there. On the House side, the speaker, he is supposed to be there. On the Senate side, you got the president pro tem. So these are the kinds of things that we have to do, to make things happen. Now, as Kandie mentioned, a lot of bills that come that don't seem like, but it's not just our Democratic bills. Most of the rank and file Republicans, they don't have any say so either. They don't have any say so whatsoever. Just like we go in the super minority on the Senate side. I mean, they don't have any say so. But you can probably tell me the 2 or 3 folks on the Senate side who made a decision, period. And I can tell you 5 or 6 people on the House side who made the decision. And these are the people that I know them, I get to know them, I make it my business to know them. So that when there's something that's happening, I can go to them and they will recognize me. They talk to me. I might not get everything I want, but I get some things. But most have no relationship with anybody on the other side. And you can't be successful that way. And as I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've learned that you have to, you know the rules, you have to learn the process. You're not going to change the rules, but what you have to do is to make the rules work for you. So you find a way to get what you want, or get what you want done by following the rules, using their rules, and they can't be supposed to do it. And I think I've been pretty successful with that. And I don't see any reason to change it at this time.
Okay, so that is going to conclude our town hall for this evening. A lot of great questions, a lot of good dialogue. And so, first, I want to thank our panelists for being here. Thank you to the superintendent. Thank you for the couple of announcements. One, Edgecombe community meeting. There will be an Edgecombe community meeting on Monday, October 27th at 6 p.m. at Edgecombe Community College Rocky Mount. It will be sponsored by the county commissioners. And so folks would like to see you there. Another announcement, if folks want to share their stories or their opinions about the town hall, the key issues that were raised tonight, also around the recent redraw of Congressional District 1 map. Please see John McCann right there. If you want to share anything, because we do want to capture as much as we can from this evening, because it's going to take a long collective effort for us to get where we need to go as a result of not only the redraw, but just all of the things that we have seen at the local and state level. The last announcement that I will make is that there are snacks and water in the next room over in the student lounge. So please take some snacks on your way out. We really don't want to take anything back, y'all. So please, if you got kids, grandkids, please take some. And make sure you learn this up. We're going into dinner time, and so thank you for hanging on in there. Because I didn't want to get as many questions as we could tonight. of tonight's event. So thank you so much, thank you for allowing me to be your moderator this evening, and y'all take care.
And I won't let y'all know my birthday was Monday, but I came anyway. I've been working. No, thank you. You reject your
Yeah, one of those. Yeah.